7 o'clock, and it's time to call this Carson City School Board meeting to order. I'd like to welcome to everybody to tonight's meeting.
Les damos la bienvenida y les decimos buenas noches y gracias por estar aquí.
Thank you. Go to number 1, adoption of the agenda as submitted for possible action.
Second.
Motion by Joe, second by Mike. Any other discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll go on. All of those in favor?
Aye.
We'll go on to the flag salute. Will you please stand and accompany Joe in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to number 3, Superintendent's Report. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'd like to extend a warm welcome. We need a little warmth tonight for everyone who is here. Thank you for joining us. We have some students that we would like to recognize, so I would like to begin by turning a little time over to our women's golf coaches, Jack White and Wayne Greenlee.
The microphones are for the recording, the minutes.
All right. My name is Jack White, and I was the coach this year for the women's Carson High School women's golf team.
And my name is Wade Greenlee. I was coach as well. And we have with us Karen Beglin. We are missing a few of our players, so I'll go ahead and just mention them first. We had 2 seniors, Sophia Tager. She was awarded honorable mention for league and regions. And then we had Karina Ferris, who was also a senior. And she got an academic award from the NIAA. We had Sarah Wiggins. She's a sophomore. And she was awarded first team league and second team regions. And then we had Brooke Goodmanson, who got her first letter for golf, so that was awesome. She's a sophomore, and very proud of her for all the effort she put in. Karen here, for the 3rd year in a row, she's a junior now, was a state qualifier, and this year she got 5th. So we're thinking next year she's probably the favorite, put a little pressure on her to win. So we'll bring a state championship, we hope, back to Carson City. We were lucky enough to be down there at TPC Summerlin, which actually had the PGA's Shriners tournament a couple weeks before, so it was a pretty exclusive resort, and it was a beautiful, beautiful 2 days. So Karen also is the golf athlete of the year for Northern Nevada for the league and the region. She won the regions, so that's twice in her 3 years. So she has 1 year left, so pretty impressive. And finally, Karen is almost an under par golfer. So for those of you who golf, her average I think was like 72.6 or something. So she's quite the golfer, but she's not a very good bowler. We had our party and we bowled, and so she doesn't do everything well. I beat her in bowling. Would you like to say something?
Of course you would.
Start out with your name.
Hi, I'm Karen Beglin. The season was a lot of fun, and I had a really good time with our team, and I'm very happy that we all made it to regionals, and can't wait for next year.
And in conclusion, thank you all. Thank all those students who put in all that effort in the fall, and for those who are still going to be out there in the in winter and spring. That's just an honor to be a coach at Carson High. So thank you for having us tonight. Oh, just in case you know, Jill's sister, who graduated Karen's sister, Jill, we do that all the time, actually is at St. John's golfing on a full scholarship and did very well this fall in her fall sports her freshman year. So Karen
you-
doesn't want to go to St. John's, so thank you again.
Sounds like a little competition in that family. Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate you.
Madam President, members of the board, we were also really excited to learn of an academic activity that has happened to our girls cross-country team. And they were recognized as the 4A state champs from an academic perspective. So this is, in our opinion, one of the highest recognitions that our athletes, our student athletes could actually have. We've invited our girls cross-country team to be here. We've also hoped that maybe Coach Pete Sinnott would be here, and I don't see him in the audience.
Mr. Stokes?
Yes.
Coach Nikki is here.
Oh, wonderful.
Coach Pete called and gave me his regrets.
thank you.
He promised his grandson a Sesame Street production tonight, so he said that with him.
Well, we would love then to invite our girls cross-country team and their coach to come forward.
Okay, my name is Nikki Cook. I am the assistant coach for the cross-country team. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce the girls, and then they are going to tell you a little bit about themselves. So we have Hannah Kaiser right here.
Hi, this is my second year doing cross country. It's been amazing, not only for running, but because it allows me to do lots of other activities. I'm in lots of honors and AP classes. I'm in student council. I'm actually student body president this year, and as well as being in NHS. And yeah, I think that's. Oh, and I have a 4.0 to that, school.
This is Julia Kaiser.
Hi, I'm Julia. It's my first year of cross country. Like Hannah, I'm in honors, but not AP yet. Ooh, I don't know if I'll do that. I have a 4.0. I'm in student council. I'm in my second year of HOSA. I'm in NHS and Blue Crew. This is my first year cross country. I do orchestra and seminary, and yeah.
Haley Ponzoff.
I'm Haley. This is my third year doing cross country at the high school, and it's been a lot of fun. And I've just been honored to be able to work with such a fun team. And I was able to be the girls' team captain this year, and that was a really cool experience. And so it was a lot of fun doing that. And doing.
Coach Pete wanted me to thank the school board for having us. Thank you very much. And to tell Joe Cassiopo, these are Pete's words, our grades have gone up since you stopped running with us. Thank him. So thank you. His words, not mine.
Sounds like a challenge.
Right? I think so. I think you should race him. We just want to thank everybody for coming, and thanks for all the support for our cross-country team, all the parents, and good job, girls. Awesome job.
If I can say a couple things, I just want to congratulate the girls cross-country team as well. Their GPA combined was a 3.96, which earning this is the highest in the state. And not only are they outstanding academically, they're outstanding. Every one of them gives it everything she's got when she's running. And they are the nicest group of girls that you could be around. They're such good kids. I love cross-country kids, and I really love these girls. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I just wanted to congratulate the girls. I've had a chance to talk to Coach Pete a couple of times recently, and he just has really high regard for everybody on the team, girls and guys on the team. There's a lot of talent on the team. It's always a growing season, if you will, but we've got some really amazing kids on the team, and he said the same thing. It's just a nice group of kids, or I should say young adults. So congratulations on your academic achievements and everything you're doing on the course. And hopefully you enjoy when he runs you through Washoe Valley through the lake during that one race. Anyway, congratulations.
Madam President, that is my report. I'd like to thank the students and parents for coming out tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We'll go ahead and move on to number 4, board reports, starting with Carson City with Ginger. And we're glad to have you here too, because we know you have school tomorrow, so we appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
And Ginger is also on the cross-country team, too.
Every Thursday during November, teachers wore t-shirts and sweatshirts from where they went to college in order to encourage students to look ahead to their future and to explore different universities and colleges that they might want to attend. And then today at lunch, FCA, which is Fellowship of Christian Athletes, gave out hot chocolate to the student body members, so everyone at school who wanted one. So that was a nice treat for those people. And then this upcoming Saturday, there are some sporting events. They're all away, none at home. The freshman and JV girls basketball has scrimmages at Spanish Springs. And then the boys JV, girls varsity, and boys varsity basketball players have games at Forest Hill High School. And then wrestling has a JV tournament at Reno High School. And then a varsity tournament at Fallon High School. And then on December 4th, the guidance office is taking eligible students who meet UNR's requirements to get into that school for a campus tour. And that's it. Thank you.
Have a good Thanksgiving, Ginger. Moving on to Laurel.
Just a reminder that next Friday is the tree lighting ceremony, and so 5th graders from all the schools in the district will be participating in the singing at that. And I don't have a report from the individual schools because it's Thanksgiving week, so.
First of all, I'd like to just wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. All our staff that works for the school district, all the students, everybody in the audience, and everybody at home. So happy Thanksgiving. Just real quickly, Bodrick Bray, the students there are completing Christmas cards. They completed them today, in fact. Christmas cards that they're sending to the troops overseas. And they're really happy to do this. Last year, they received some replies back with pictures of the troops holding their cards in their hand. And so they really look forward to this event every year. And then at Carson Middle School, this coming Wednesday, December 4th at 6:30 p.m., the musical theater performance will be held. And then the choir will hold their winter concert on Thursday, December 5th at 6:30 also. Now, I know that the musical theater presentation is going to be well done because my granddaughter's in it. And I got to see her practice it last night for about 30 minutes. So I know it's going to be an event to look forward to. And once again, happy Thanksgiving.
I don't have any reports for my schools, but I also would like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving y al mismo tiempo tomo la oportunidad para decirles a la audiencia que entiende español, feliz Día de Acción de Gracias.
Yes, also happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We have an amazing staff at the school district. Everybody from the trustees to the executive staff to the teachers and custodial staff and everybody. So thanks for everybody's hard work and take some time to enjoy friends and family. Just 2 quick items from the high school. UNR admissions applications. If anyone's looking for some help applying to UNR, Justin Bolt's going to be on campus Tuesday, December 3rd in the Tech Center, the conference room there during AB 55. So if anybody needs any help, don't be shy. Go in there and get the help you need to get your applications in. And speaking of help, resumes as well for all you seniors. If you need help writing a resume, the Career Center is there to help you. And all you have to do is schedule an appointment. They have a link you can go to, or I'm sure you can walk in the office and get your name on a list. But, good luck to everybody. And again, happy holidays.
A couple quick announcements on the Blue Thunder Marching Band of Carson High School. They will be having a year-end banquet when we get back on Tuesday, December 3rd at the school. And they found out just this past week that they've been accepted to the Chinese New Year Parade in San Francisco. Once again, and that is February 8th that we will be going to San Francisco. And that's my report. And happy Thanksgiving.
That's quite the recognition. Thank you. Mike.
So I'd echo everybody else in wishing everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Not to steal Mr. Stokes' thunder, but we did have our NASB conference this last weekend focused on building bridges. And I'm proud to report that 100% of the school board and Mr. Stokes and Mr. Fueling received training on meeting the needs of our students effectively in a transparent manner. At the conference, Laurel Crossman was elected president-elect of the organization, so next year she will become the president. Congratulations, Laurel. Next year. Next year.
Yes, same year.
Eventually.
Not enough time to get out of it.
Trustees, one of the things that Deb Oliver is looking at is building in some training into the quarterly meetings that we have as directors. And so some tentative dates, and I think something official will come out, are February 7th and 8th in Reno, June 19th and 20th in Elko, September 11th and 12th in Vegas. And then the conference for next year is slated to be a week earlier so that we're not up against the Thanksgiving holiday and also state finals. And so that should be November 13th and 14th. In Reno. And finally, a number of us received awards at the conference, and that came with some money from Donors Choose. And so Mr. Fueling, Trustee Wilkie, and myself will be looking for teachers in Carson City to support in Donors Choose. And so that completes my report.
Thank you, Mike. Yep.
I just wanted, for most people don't know Donors Choose, and I didn't know really a whole lot about them, but it's an avenue for teachers and staff to put out there something special they're trying to do for the students of the district. And long story short, you could say, hey, I'm trying to do this. This is what it does for the kids in my class or in my school. And then people can respond to that and provide some financial assistance for you to make that happen for your students. And, just listening this weekend at the conference to everything that Donors Choose, the organization, is involved in, I was pretty impressed. I mean, they are really a generous organization. So I just wanted to publicly thank Donors Choose for all they do for our teachers and our staff here in the district.
They weren't little amounts. I got 500, so anybody that has a project, let us know. I have the announcements for Pioneer High. Abby's unable to make it today. We hope she has safe travels for Thanksgiving. November 26th, Mr. Jordan and the leadership students delivered food baskets to the elementary schools. The food was enough for 26 families and came from a generous donation from Connie Hernandez and her family. Mrs. Hernandez was part of the Pioneer staff for 17 years before her retirement, and she started this program, so it was great to see that she continues to get involved with the Pioneer High School students. December 5th, the leadership students will be doing community service at Sierra Place. They will be decorating 3 Christmas trees with senior residents. And on December 7th is finally the Winterfest dance from 6 to 8. Entry prize is a bag of chips or a liter of soda. And I too wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Moving on to number 5, association reports. Seeing none, we'll move on to number 6, public comments. Comments may be made by the public for the let me start over. Comments may be made by members of the public or any matters within the authority of this board. Please note the public comment will be taken on these items marked for possible action before action is taken on such items. And members of the public are encouraged to comment on such items at a time when they are being considered. Although members of the board may respond to questions and discuss issues raised during public comment, no action may be taken on such matters until the matter is placed on an agenda for action at a board meeting. In making public comment, speakers are asked to come to the table, speak into the microphone, and identify themselves for the record. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to no more than 3 minutes and are simply not repeating comments made by others. Is there any public comment? Thank you. Seeing none, we'll move on to the best part of our agenda, presentation of the 2019-2020 CCSD board-sponsored American Citizens Essay Contest winners for discussion only. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I agree. This is a fun evening and certainly an event that has been fun to watch and to see grow over the years. As you know, this is a board-sponsored contest that began after the bombing of the World Trade Towers in New York City. And since that time, we have allowed students an opportunity really to put forward their ideas, their thoughts about liberty, about being an American, and they've been able to do that through the writing process. So before we identify our winners tonight, I would like to, one, thank everybody who participated, because it takes a little extra work to do this. And we have been blessed by hearing the thoughts of our youth over the years. I'd also like to thank a group of teachers who helped to read and grade these essays. So I'd like to recognize Lacey Carey, Lori Shine, Hillary Mendeguia, Robin Williams, Greg Spriggs, and Pam Copperthwaite, who gave of their time and their energy and their expertise really to read and to score these students' work. So without further ado.
If there are any parents that want to come up here behind us to take pictures, feel free so you don't have the back of their heads.
So I'd like to also just let the audience know, and the students, if they didn't already, that there are cash awards for having been here tonight. So for the third place winners, they'll receive a $15 check. Our second place winners will receive $30. And our first place winners will receive $80. And in addition to that, we'll have our first place winners actually read their presentations tonight. So representing our elementaries, I'd like to invite Emma Gregg, who is a 5th grader at Mark Twain Elementary School, to come forward. She was awarded 3rd place.
Yeah, can the students turn around? All the parents are up here.
Our second place winner in the elementary category is also from Mark Twain, 5th grader Nicholas Katsonis, if he would come up. And our first place winner in the elementary category from Seeliger Elementary School, first place, Mr. Roman Gonzalez. And we have invited Roman to share his work with us. So Roman, I'm going to have you come right up here, take a seat.
Have you ever wondered why everyone is different in this world? That is why our world comes together. Without diversity, we would probably be unsuccessful in a majority of things. On Earth, we have many different things like electricity, food, and many other things because different people are better at different things. There are many people and places on Earth that show diversity and inclusiveness, including churches, schools, and even just by chatting at the park. Churches are an example of diversity and inclusiveness. We have many different religions, but every church is willing to take new members. Some people believe in things like the devil, while others believe in Jesus. These people do different traditions like praying, rituals, and using objects like crosses. We are all different because we do these things, but we don't hate other people for their beliefs and values. Sometimes we even give people a chance to see their beliefs by including them in their own diverse praying. We are all equal in our own ways, even though we do different things. Furthermore, schools are also a great example of diversity and inclusiveness. Back in the day, we had a horrible thing called segregation. We need to reject any politics that targets people because of race or religion. This isn't a matter of political correctness. It's a matter of understanding what makes us strong. The world respects us not just for our arsenal, it respects us for our diversity and our openness and the way we respect our faith. This was from brainyquote.com, who took this from Barack Obama. Obama perfectly explains that we need to understand that we are great because we are able to be different. In schools now, we are including each other everywhere, even though many teachers and students are different. We don't have white-only schools anymore, and everyone has the same materials and funds to work with. On the playground, we see many different kids playing, and they are all including each other. Without diversity, kids and teachers can share what they believe and feel, since everyone will accept them that we are including. Everyone will accept that we are including them. Equally important is by actually embracing diversity and inclusiveness. I've shared places where we can find it, but it can also provide helpful and joyous information about other people. I'm half Filipino and Indonesian, but since I was included, I found out many things and traditions. Since people treat me equally to them, I found out about Thanksgiving and other big events. Without them, including me, I could never find out about it. I can learn from others and they can learn from me because we are different. If it weren't for diversity, we could not learn from each other. How could we learn more without diversity? However, since we are different, we can learn from each other. This is how we learn more and more. Without inclusiveness and diversity, I'm 70% sure that we would die. Without each other, we could never learn, and we could not stay by ourselves because we need to open up to others. Without us being different, we could not have segregation, and we could learn why separation is wrong. Without a problem, there is no solution. Without difference, there is no inclusiveness. This is why I believe that without diversity, our world would not come together.
Thank you, Roman. That was awesome. Give us all hope up here.
Thank you.
Hey, Roman, I just want to say congratulations, and I'm happy I didn't have to write an essay and compete with you. You're amazing. You're a very intelligent young man, so well done.
Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, just as a reminder, the topic for the American Citizens essay was, in quotes, an early motto of the United States was E pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. How do we embrace diversity and inclusiveness to come together as one country? And Roman, you did a nice job of stating your beliefs and your ideas. Well done. take it all. So next, we will move to recognizing our winners of our essay contest at the middle school level. I would like to introduce Mr. Trayton Mascali from Bethlehem Lutheran School, but he is not here, so we'll make sure that we get his card and his certificate to him. Winning second place in the middle school category is Samantha Stain, 8th grader from Bethlehem Lutheran School. Sorry. There we go. And our first place winner, also from Bethlehem Lutheran School, is 8th grader Joseph Seddon.
An early motto of the United States was E pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. I believe it was the perfect motto for the growing United States, whose population was very diverse. Out of many cultures and people came one country. The United States is the perfect example of a country that has embraced E pluribus unum, diversity, and inclusiveness to come together as one united nation. The United States has done this by accepting the identity of each individual United States citizen and including them all together as one people. A couple of ways this is demonstrated is by encouraging bonding, having individual cultural towns and cities, and believing everyone is entitled to certain rights. One way the United States embraces the phrase E pluribus unum, diversity, and inclusiveness is by encouraging bonding. In the United States, people are given the opportunity to bond with and get to know people from different cultures and races, which they might not have the opportunity to do in other countries. Through bonding with people from different cultures living in the United States, American citizens are able to form new and unique traditions, incorporating components from many other traditions that they have learned about. In the United States, people are able to make peace and friends with other cultures, ethnicities, and races, even if their native countries are enemies or at war. The United States is also part of the United Nations, which shows we would like to bond together with other countries. This shows how we embrace the diversity of people and want to make peace and friends with the cultures, races, and countries where our citizens have descended from. Another way the United States embraces E pluribus unum, diversity, and inclusiveness is by having individual cultural towns and cities. Just like individual cultures come together to form one large nation, the United States of America, individual cultural towns come together to form one large city. These towns show how the United States has accepted and embraced the cultures, allowed people to stay as they are, and not asked them to fulfill certain requirements. People can experience and be a part of the culture of the United States while still staying connected to their roots and culture. These cultural towns also allow people from different cultures, ethnicities, and races to experience other cultures. One example of this is happening in my life. I enjoy going to Japantown in San Francisco, California, and experiencing what Japanese culture is like by eating ramen, a type of noodle soup, and walking through the town. I can learn about Japanese culture while still being in the United States and part of its culture. The United States has embraced other cultures and wants their citizens to have the ability to experience and learn about them without having to leave the country. The United States of America also embraces E pluribus unum, diversity, and inclusiveness through believing everyone is entitled to certain inalienable God-given rights. When our founding fathers wrote the Declaration of Independence in 1776 to officialize the 13 colonies' want for independence from Great Britain, they wrote that all men are created equal. This was the start of the American belief that all people are entitled to God-given rights. Great Britain gave the colonists certain rights, referred to as rights of Englishmen, but took them away when colonists began to question British Parliament and its laws. Our founding fathers believed this was wrong and wished to create a new country where people would be given rights which would not be a privilege that could be taken away. They believed people should be free to live their life, pursue things that made them happy, be a part of a religion of their choice, and talk freely. These rights have become the main rights the United States value and American citizens have today. The United States accepts and values everyone as they are, including their culture, race, and heritage. American citizens believe that everyone was created equal and born with the same rights. We also believe that everyone is entitled to God-given rights no matter who they are or where they come from. The United States includes all people from all cultures in this rightful entitlement. The United States welcomes anyone and honors their rights no matter who they are, what they believe, or what their culture and traditions are, as long as they are willing to respect others. The United States of America has become one of the leading countries in having the ability to embrace e pluribus unum, diversity, and inclusiveness to come together as one strong united nation. The United States is a great example of a country that has embraced the phrase e pluribus unum to become one united nation out of many cultures. The United States has been called a melting pot of cultures, ethnicities, and races, and has embraced that identity. Many American traditions have originated in different places from different cultures, but have been embraced and expanded upon to form the well-known American traditions of today. Bonding, having individual cultural towns and cities, and believing everyone is entitled to certain rights are all ways the United States of America have embraced the phrase e pluribus unum, diversity, and inclusiveness to better itself and come together as one strongly united nation.
That was awesome too. Thank you so much.
Madam President, members of the board, next we will move to the high school category. And in third place, ninth grader at Carson High School is Stephanie Raguma. In second place, also a ninth grader at Carson High School, is Deepti Arun. And our first place winner in the American Essay Citizens Contest is Miss Ava Covington, 12th grader at Carson High School.
Should preface this, I've got a bit of a cold, so if I stop, that's why. Okay. In modern philosophy, there exists the idea that truth can be established through what is called the Hegelian dialectic. The idea, as expressed by German philosopher Johann Gottlieb Fichte, is a three-step process, which consists of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. In other words, it is the process by which many ideas find a solution. First, the idea develops, then one that directly opposes it, and in the end, the best one which incorporates both, one which lies somewhere in between the two. Historically, this idea can be a simplified version of how society has progressed. Marxism serves as the antithesis to classical conservatism. The end result is globalism. In the modern day, however, society's progression is far more complex. With modern technology has come an influx of information, out of which thousands of ideas arise, no one with majority rule above others as the most common or correct. This means that the path to truth is unclear, but as we progress, there are certain ideals that each of us hold to have value. As Americans, one of these can be summed up by the famous words, e pluribus unum, which means, out of many, one. The United States is predicated upon the promise it offers, a land of opportunity, where all people can leave their troubles behind and work towards their dreams. Because of this ideal, America has grown to be a nation comprised of different groups of people from all over the world, the great melting pot of diversity that holds the promise of change. This is perhaps the most fascinating, beautiful thing about our country. All its citizens, regardless of religion, race, and belief, have a dream to work towards in their mind's eye, and in that sense, it is a nation of driven people. But this also presents difficulties. Greater diversity of groups means greater diversity of thought, and on account of the technologically aided entropic nature of modern society, issues more complex than they have ever been. With the 21st century has come perhaps the greatest change of all. The very fabric of America is being torn and redefined to incorporate ideas and societal changes that have never been seen before. Our country has never been so unified in that its people are thinking, but so divided by what its people think. We are asking profound questions, such as, who are we, and what do we stand for? We are asking questions of incontestable importance that have not arisen since the country's foundation. Each person has a different answer to these questions, and a great deal of conflict has arisen on their account. In a divided nation, how do we come together to embody an ideal no one completely agrees upon? How do we embrace diversity and include all in such an abstract, inconcrete idea? First, we must decide what that idea is. No one man or woman can define it. It must be done by all, a democratic development that embodies something we all believe in. The only way to incite change is to raise individuals that can come together, regardless of political differences and divergent beliefs, with the object of progress as their task. To raise an individual to do so means beginning at that which is controllable in the foundation of one's development, the education system. Children's general morals and political positions are products of their parents more often than not, but those are not the only important facets of what creates a functioning member of society. A child's second greatest influence is his or her education, where analytical ways of looking at the world can be taught and paradigms altered. This is where children are taught ways to think and interact with the world, and it is where children first learn to deal with beliefs divergent from their own. The greatest issue in our society is not wrong ideas or values. It is the inability to look at such differences and reason and reflect upon one's own beliefs because of them. It is the unwillingness to open oneself to the possibility of change if compromise or diversity presents inconvenient information. To combat this, one must begin in the education system and teach children not what values they should have, but how to move through the world with the ones they do have. To teach children that, above all, respect and good manners create the quintessential interaction allows one to avoid conflict where it is unnecessary. To teach children to look at the world empirically, to analyze what they see and ask the question, why, is the only way people will ever learn to observe and be able to come together on its account. A slight alterance of the education system is the first step to embracing diversity in all its complexity to promote inclusiveness, and the first step towards raising a generation of people that know how to congregate and evolve. To implement such ideals into curriculum in addition to teaching them has already been done. Just as most children read Dr. Seuss's The Lorax and learned about the necessity to respect the environment, incorporating more stories that tell tales of the human experience could have the same effect. There are facets of the human condition which transcend class and religion and culture, experiences which all gain over time, and thoughts and emotions each person will have in common over the course of their lifetime. The fundamental root of humanity is built upon such experiences. All our creations and achievements mirror in some way truths we all share. To teach books about these and encourage an interest in introspection can develop in people a sense of commonality, and thus an empathy that can serve how they interact with others their whole lives. We must teach children that they need not take offense at differences, but rather study them with the hope of learning, and that they must not work to defend their beliefs so much as they should justify them in their own mind and teach them to others. If we can teach children this way of life, we can combat polarizing extremism with logic, and begin to further build a nation which embraces diversity and inclusivity to develop a singular identity. The only way to achieve e pluribus unum is to show people that their similarities outweigh their differences. All mothers love their children, Muslim, Christian, and agnostic alike, and at their essence, most people want something similar, to exert their will upon the world in a positive, lasting way. Americans are perhaps the greatest example of such an idea. The dreams and work ethic of our people all reflect the common ideal of the promise this country offers. If we can teach people to see that, to widen their paradigm and emphasize courtesy, if we can implement a hungry curiosity about the world, we can show a people to embrace diversity and develop systems which better inclusiveness on account of empathy to come together as one country. This way, we can truly take pride in being one of the greatest nations in the world, as one that promotes freedom and equality, and one that embraces its diversity as a means to grow and prosper.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, I'm really impressed with all of those essays that we've heard, and I think that it's a very timely topic, and I think as we're heading into election season, I think that there's all types of people that probably need to hear some of those messages and remember that there is diversity in our thoughts and our beliefs, but together we are strong as one great nation, and I think if our students were leading the way, more people would see that. So great job, Carson City students.
Yeah. I was on this board when we initiated this, and it was such a powerful thing at the time. And there's some days we get up here and we don't have the money and we don't know why we're up here and what we do. And today just really concretes that for us, that we have just amazing kids in this school. And it just lifts up my heart with things that are going on in the nation to know that there's hope, and that the next generation coming up has that hope in their heart. And I'm so thankful for that. And I thank you guys for coming tonight. I know it's hard the day before Thanksgiving vacation, so I appreciate the parents for you guys bringing them. But one more thing before you leave, if the winners could just come up here so we could get a group photo, that would be awesome.
While they're coming up to take their pictures, I too wanted to congratulate everybody. I think Roman kind of set the bar high tonight when he read his essay. And just watching at the progression of our students, you know, what an amazing group of students. You know, we tend to look at a lot of statistics. You know, Nevada's here, Nevada's there, but this is a testament to what we're doing here in Northern Nevada and in Carson City. What an amazingly intelligent group of young people. And if this is our future, we're in very good shape. So congratulations, everybody, and thanks, parents, for sharing them with us.
And well done, Ava. That was excellent.
Thank you so much. You guys can get out of here and go enjoy your vacation. Thank you. It's going to be hard to do anything after this meeting, after that, but we have even a great presentation coming up. Number 8, bilingual presentation in English and Spanish on the structure of the Carson City School District and the school board for discussion only. If you'll remember back in March, I discussed having a little bit more of a diversity, which seems to be the theme tonight, of getting the Hispanic community involved in some of our meetings. And I wasn't sure how to do that. And so I thank Trustee Ramirez for going out and figuring out what they would want to see instead of what we wanted to see for a change. and kind of get a feeling for what our Hispanic community goes through watching one of our board meetings when it's all in English. So I thank you for your time for tonight. Ms. Ramirez.
Thank you, President Walke. For the record, Lupe Ramirez. President Walke will introduce everyone first in English and then we'll go in Spanish. Is that okay? Yeah.
Hello, good evening. My name is Victor Garcia. I'm a paraprofessional at ESL paraprofessional at Mark Twain.
My name is Germán Fernandez. I'm a parent ambassador in WNC and also a member of the Mark Twain lunchroom. And thank you for having me.
Hi, my name is Nelly. Germán is my husband. I am the parent ambassador for the WNC.
All right, thank you. Okay, okay, it's going to be hard for me to go back and forth. Vamos a hacer la presentación en español.
So we're going to do this presentation in Spanish.
Y les pedimos disculpas si tenemos errores.
And we ask to forgive us if we have any mistakes.
Okay. So, primero que nada, muchísimas gracias a la presidenta Wilkie por su visión de la importancia de ofrecer esta presentación en español para hacer sentir más incluidos a nuestras familias latinas en el distrito.
First of all, thank you to President Wilkie for the vision of and the importance of being able to present this or do this presentation in Spanish to make our Hispanic or Latin families in the district be more included in it.
Mr. Stokes, muchísimas gracias por apoyar esta idea y por su ayuda para presentar esta presentación.
Mr. Stokes, thank you very much for supporting this idea and for helping us in preparing this presentation.
A los miembros de la mesa directiva, muchísimas gracias por aceptar esta idea sin reservaciones.
And to the members of the board, thank you for accepting this idea without any regrets.
Sorry. See, I told you to forgive us for any errors.
Les dije que nos perdonan por cualquier error.
All right. Cuando hablamos sobre esta idea, invitamos a la pareja Fernández para que nos dieran la opinión de qué tema hablar en esta noche.
When we talked about this idea, we invited the Fernandez couples and for them to tell us what their opinion was about what theme to talk about in this first presentation.
Su respuesta del señor Fernández fue, pues para comenzar, ¿qué es la mesa directiva?
And the answer from Mr. Fernandez was, well, to begin, what is the board?
Ahí fue donde nos dimos cuenta de la importancia de introducir a las familias la estructura de la mesa directiva y del distrito escolar de Carson City.
And that's where we got the idea of the importance of introducing to the families the structure of the board and of the Carson City School District.
So, la mesa directiva es formada de representantes, el nombre oficial es Trustees, de 7 distritos. Aquí vemos en el mapa de Carson City para identificar los diferentes distritos.
So the board is made out of 7 trustees of the districts, and here we see the map that represent Carson City and to identify each district.
Si puedo pedir a cada trustee que cuando nombre su distrito se pare para que sea reconocido.
If I could ask the trustees when I mention your district, if you could please stand up so you could be acknowledged.
Distrito número 2.
District number 2.
Distrito número 3.
District number 3.
Distrito número 4.
District number 4.
Distrito número 5,
District number 5,
Distrito número 6,
District number 6,
Distrito número 7.
and District number 7.
Y Distrito número 1.
And District
A sus
number 1.
órdenes. All right. Para participar en la elección de los candidatos deben ser residentes de su distrito que desean representar mínimo por 6 meses.
So to run for office, the candidates need to reside in the district for at least 6 months.
También deben de llenar una solicitud en el Palacio de Justicia y tiene el costo de $30.
They also have to file an application at the courthouse, and it has a cost of $30.
Otro requerimiento es llenar una solicitud en línea en la página de la ciudad y reportar sus finanzas personales.
Another requirement is to fill out a page online at the city website and report their personal finances.
Una vez elegido, se presenta a una ceremonia de juramento ante el juez antes de comenzar su plazo.
Once elected, they need to attend a civil oath ceremony before they begin their term.
Cada miembro es elegido por 4 años.
And each member is elected for 4 years.
Cuando iniciamos nuestro plazo, tenemos que asistir a un entrenamiento para aprender sobre las reglas de las reuniones para evitar problemas legales.
When we begin our term, we need to attend our required trainings so we may learn about the rules of the meetings so to avoid any type of legal issues.
Por ejemplo, todos los temas deben ser en público.
For example,
Go ahead.
all the topics need to be public.
Si nos encontramos en la calle o en un evento, no podemos hablar de temas relacionados con la mesa directiva.
If we find each other on the street or at an event, we cannot talk about any topics related to the board.
También hay que revisar las políticas del distrito. Por ejemplo, cuando la administración hace cambios a las políticas para mejorar el sistema, administradores piden aprobación de la mesa directiva.
We also have to review the policies of the district. For example, when the administration makes any changes to the politics to better the system, the administrators ask an approval from the board members.
Para elegir un nuevo superintendente, la mesa directiva aprueba esta posición.
To elect a new superintendent, the board also approves this position.
Cada segundo y cuarto martes del mes tenemos las reuniones aquí de 7 a 10.
Every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, we have the meetings here at 7 p.m., from 7 to 10 p.m.
También necesitamos de servir en comités en la comunidad para representar el distrito.
We also have to serve on community boards and committees to represent the district, the school district.
Apoyamos los eventos de las escuelas, por ejemplo, las ceremonias de National Honor Society, ceremonias de reconocimientos de los estudiantes, conciertos y eventos familiares.
And we also support any type of events, school events, for example, ceremonies such as National Honor Society, ceremonies of acknowledging students, or any kind of concert or family events.
Como miembros de la mesa directiva, guiamos el sistema educativo en nuestra comunidad y trabajamos con el superintendente Mr. Stokes en proyectos para mejorar el distrito.
As members of the board, we guide our educative system in our community, and we work along with Superintendent Mr. Stokes in projects to better the district.
Este organigrama que miran en la pantalla es un reflejo de sus responsabilidades de Mr. Stokes, lo cual ustedes reconocen es una inmensa responsabilidad.
So this organizational chart, as you see, is just a reflection of all the of Mr. Stokes' responsibilities, which, as you can see, it's a vast number of responsibilities.
Ahora hablamos sobre las responsabilidades del Superintendent Mr. Stokes.
Now we talk about the responsibilities of Mr. Stokes' responsibilities.
El equipo ejecutivo del superintendent está presente.
The executive team of the superintendent is here present.
So Renee Cortés prepara los materiales y grabaciones de estas reuniones.
Rene Cortez prepares the material and recordings for these meetings.
El señor A.J. Feeling, oficial de finanzas, analiza los fondos estatales y federales del distrito.
Mr. A.J. Feeling also, who is the official finances.
También trabaja con Mr. Stokes en estrategias para asegurar que el distrito tenga el espacio necesario para servir a los estudiantes.
And he works along with Mr. Stokes in strategies to make sure that the district has the necessary space to serve the students.
Ms. Tasha Fuson administra las áreas de currículo y las políticas del distrito.
Mrs. Tasha Fusion, she administers the areas when it comes to the curriculum and the politics of the district.
Dr. José Delfin administra la área de recursos humanos.
Dr. Jose Delfin administers the area of the human resources.
Él también habla español y la recepcionista o su recepcionista del distrito de la oficina principal también habla español.
He speaks Spanish, and also his main receptionist of the school district also speaks Spanish.
El señor Pavlakis es el abogado del distrito.
Mr. Pavlakis is the attorney, the district attorney.
Y él también siempre está presente en estas reuniones.
And he's also present in these meetings.
So, estos son los diferentes departamentos del distrito y los servicios que ofrecen.
So these are the different departments of the district and the services that they offer.
En esta área miramos también las diferentes posiciones disponibles en el distrito.
In this area, we see all the different positions available in the district.
So, esta es la lista de las escuelas dentro del distrito escolar.
So this is the list of the schools within the school district.
Como ven, tenemos 6 escuelas elementarias.
As you see, we have 6 elementary schools.
So, Mark Twain, Empire, Silliger, Bordewick, Freeman y Fridge.
Which is Mark Twain, Empire, Silliger, Bordewick, Fremont, and Fridge.
También tenemos 2 escuelas secundarias.
We also have 2 middle schools,
Eagle Valley Middle School y Carson Middle School.
Eagle Valley and Carson Middle.
Tenemos 2 preparatorias, Pioneer High School y Carson High School.
We have 2 high schools, which is Pioneer High School and Carson High School.
Tenemos la educación para adultos en la prisión.
We also have the adult education at the prison,
Y tenemos la escuela en línea.
and we have the online school.
Y tenemos Carson Montessori School, que es una escuela patrocinada por el distrito.
And we also have Carson Montessori School, which is a school that is sponsored by the district.
Esa es la presentación que hemos traído para que la comunidad latina esté informada en la estructura del distrito escolar.
So this is the presentation that we've brought so that our Hispanic community may be knowledgeable of the structure of the school district here in the city.
Esperamos ver que nuestra comunidad participe en las reuniones del futuro.
And we hope to see our community to be involved in our future meetings.
Thank you very much. Do you guys have any questions for us?
No, this is just a good start. This is just, I don't know how this works. Okay, yeah, I just want this is a good start. Like, we need to, part of our job or our vocation is try to involve parents. So, and most of the main issues that we had and to know the opportunities, not only the opportunities, the structure of the schools. So that's something that we can work with and start spreading this this information to everyone. So it's good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We really do appreciate your time, and we do foresee doing this probably, hopefully on a quarterly basis so that we can get the interaction and get information and work towards our diversity as we've been told today.
Yeah.
So we do really appreciate it. And a great job at Mark Twain. We're so glad you're there.
Thank you. And also, if there's anything that we can do at any time, we want to get involved with our kids and our parents as well. There is a gap, and we want to be that bridge so that our kids could also get the opportunities they're missing out on. So we're here to help.
Great. We appreciate that. We have a very strong Carson community, and it shows with you guys. And we'll keep going, and we'll hope. Laurel. Mm-hmm.
I just would like to thank you for your presentation. It was great. And also just a couple things I wanted to point out. While the board members do live and have to reside in those districts, the entire city votes on each board member. So wherever community members live, they can vote on each school board member. And then the other thing is that while we can't talk about board matters outside of a meeting with each other, we can talk to members of the community, and we can talk to them. It's just that we can't talk to each other about it outside of board meetings. So if anyone has any concerns, you can talk to Lupe or myself or anyone that way. And that doesn't violate anything.
That's true. Thank you.
Yeah, I too wanted to thank all of you for coming tonight. And I think, this is something really important to do. And we want to include the community in everything we do. And I understand it's very hard, whether it's, being busy, having trouble with the language, whatever it might be. Anything we can do to foster everybody in our community getting more involved in our community, we're all in favor of. I think what I'd like to ask is, at least starting with the four of you, is when you go back and talk to your friends and your families, and just let them know to please, if they have ideas, to come forward, to speak to anybody at the district. If they feel like they're not being heard for whatever reason, speak to somebody else, but be passionate enough to make sure we hear the message and let us know what we can do to bring people on board, whatever our backgrounds are. I mean, it's a small community. We mentioned early on in this meeting that we went to a conference, and it was about, bridging the gaps, and that's what we're trying to do here. And so we really appreciate everybody's input, and anything you can do to bring people forward and encourage them to be involved and talk to us and let us know what we can do. I would appreciate that, and I think everybody up here would. So thank you.
Thank you all for all your support.
Gracias por todo su apoyo.
Gracias. De nada. Thank you so much. Moving on to number 9. Progress update on the school performance plan related to the Nevada School Performance Framework for Carson High School for discussion only. Ms. Fushan and Mr. Ward, welcome.
For time's sake, I didn't put a ton of pictures in here. I like to usually have music, and I was going to have a walk-up song. And so I couldn't decide. I was going to do Hall & Oates, Making Dreams Come True.
You just
But
made
I
Mrs.
did
Pryor's
not.
night.
All right. I am jealous of the hair, though. Hall & Oates. That's one reason I really like them. So, Carson High School, I'm talking to you guys tonight about our school performance plan and where we're at. Madam President, member of the board, thank you for having me here. So the mission statement, Carson High School challenges and supports students to achieve their greatest potential for future success. And It's what I keep on going back to, hopefully in the decisions that I'm making. So, school rating, how are schools rated in Nevada? So through the NSPF, 27, you're a 1 star, 27 to 50, 2 stars, 50 to 67, you're at 3 stars, and 67 and less than 84, you're 4, and the goal is to be 84 or above. So how do they get these scores? So I'm just going to give you guys kind of an idea of how the NSPF works. This is what I gave the teachers of why our score is where it's at. So the first one's academic achievement indicator, and we ended up receiving 17 out of 25 points. And this is based off of the math proficiency and ELA proficiency off the ACT, and then science proficiency assessment. And so on the next slide here, it shows you the benchmark for English composition is 18. That means if you score an 18 on the ELA composite on the ACT, that you have a 50% chance of obtaining a B or higher, or a 75% chance of obtaining a C or higher in the corresponding college course. So the percentages, they have set percentages for English and also for mathematics, and the college course that it corresponds with, like, would be English composition, mathematics, it would be algebra. I have the ACT benchmarks on there for social science and biology, but they don't actually take the science score. They're using the high school proficiency science exam, which is reported to the federal government. So the question, why does that matter? Why is it an important measurement? Students who score a 21 composite average, or 21 on the ACT, they waive the GPA requirement for the Millennium Scholarship. They also waive, if you college course placement 22 composite, then they waive that GPA requirement. It also impacts, I didn't put this table on there, but the amount of scholarships that you can get based off of the ACT score. So it's super important, and it's a big measurement for Carson High School. But it only makes up 25 points out of the 100, so. So this is a chart I put up there, just kind of showing you the percentage of students that are scoring a 22 on the ACT. And you can see we've made growth each year in the math. We've also made growth, if you look at in the last couple of years, on the ELA proficiency, moving from 37 to 46 to 53. And that's, if you talk to ACT, that's good progress that we're making. This is, and the ACT is our juniors that they're measuring. So when they say your kids are going to be ready for that at the end of the junior year, they still have, and they're doing it in February as well. So you're getting the education of your students from freshman, sophomore, and then like 5 months. So saying that they're prepared for college at that point. So when you look at that, if I would be upset if 25% of my kids are proficient, that would not be acceptable to me. But we are making growth, and it's this year it's at February. Last year was in March. So there's still time, but it's a national assessment. And
I think the thing to note there, Tash, if you sum for the record, is also that we do have scores not on the NSPF, but for our graduating class of. So again, seniors who test the second year around, most of these students will have, as Mr. Ward is stating, a full almost a full 3 semesters before they go to college. So we would anticipate those percentages to be much higher. Comparatively speaking to our other high schools within the state, our students at Carson High School score very well.
So that's really solid progress right there, which is what we want. Here's growth, looking at the composite scores for the different areas. So for reading, we went up a full point last year, which is huge, 1.2 to be exact, and that's huge growth. Like, you should be, the growth that ACT is talking about when they say good growth, they're looking at 0.2. So that's huge growth for reading. English as well, and math slowly going up, and science, which would be nice if they were measuring, instead of using the high school proficiency, which is based off of biology. It would be nice if they were using ACT science, because we're making solid growth there. And then our composite average of 0.6 improvement is solid. And in the years before, I think we had a year previously we were about 18.4, and so we had kind of flatlined for the last 4 years, and we were super excited to see our composite average, because I think it's a good measurement, although the state doesn't measure us on the composite, 18.6. I think that's a real good measurement to look at, because it includes everybody.
I have to give a little shout out to the ACT reading average. I think the massive gains in that particular area has to do with our social studies teachers and the presentation that they made to the board. Actually, we brought all of our coordinators in earlier to talk about what's going on in each of these areas, but social studies in particular tackled reading in their classes and really focusing on ACT prep regarding the reading passages. And I think what that just shows is that when you focus on something, when you actually bring it to attention of students and really do direct instruction on that, it makes a big difference. So a 1.2 gain in that area is pretty impressive. And Mr. Ward actually is over the social studies department, so I have to give that shout out to him and his leadership with that group of teachers.
So English language proficiency indicator, that's 10 points, and it's based off of our access tests. So our LAP students, the expectation is when an LAP student comes to the school district, that in 5 years they exit the program, meaning that they're proficient in the English language. And we had 20% meet adequate growth percentiles using the access test, and so we got a full 10 out of 10 points there. That's not the end. I believe we can do better. Looking at the number of students we've had exit, if you want to come and talk to me about access scores and kind of what we're doing, I'd love for any of you to come talk to me, because we're really, I think we can do better, and we've got some good plans and how we're going to support our students exiting the program, which tells you that they can be successful in any of our standard classes without support, and that's the goal, to be successful. Student engagement indicator, we got 4.5 out of 10. That's not fantastic. Our 9th grade credit sufficiency, so that's looking at the number of students that have 5 credits at the end of the year, and we dropped from 90% to 86%. And so that obviously studies, you want your freshman students to, as soon as they fall behind, it becomes that much more difficult to catch up. So
This was a challenge, I think, for the high school, because we kind of took our eyes off the credit sufficiency indicator, feeling that we kind of had some processes dialed in there. We're focused really on the ACT and ACT studies and realigning our standards. And that just goes to show you that the minute you kind of think, okay, we've got a great process here, we can kind of focus or change our focus here, it's easy to lose progress. So that one in particular, that percentage does not include summer school and the number of credits earned in summer school. So I'd like to point that out, because one thing that, again, Carson High has going for it, actually pioneer our entire district, is an exceptional summer school program, and many of our students are able to get back on track after doing a summer session with us for about 3.5 weeks. So this is right at the end of the freshman year, not including that.
I have a question, Stacy. The increase in chronic absenteeism, is that from 2016 to 2017? Is that when the Department of Education changed the definition of absent to include part day?
Yes, actually, that specifically changed from looking at average daily attendance to chronic absenteeism. So including days out on suspension, it includes medical, any absence actually that's not an approved school activity. So that we saw huge leaps in the percentage of students that were deemed as chronically absent. So in reality, that Carson High School is trending in the correct direction if you look at 2017-18 to 2019-20. So you're wanting that percentage to obviously decrease. So being able to focus on that a bit. And of course, as Mr. Ward said, Principal Ward said that, this is definitely an area of need for Carson High School to focus on these two particular engagement factors.
Graduation rate, we ended up getting 30 out of 30 points, which is fantastic. We've gone up each year, and I can't remember the state graduation rate. I want to guess, I think it's 82 or 84. So we're at 94.5, and that's pretty good.
Gavin, I just wanted to let you know, at this weekend's NASB conference, at the end of it, when we were doing awards and whatnot, Stacy was actually at the podium and summarized some of our accomplishments, and we mentioned the graduation rates, and people's heads were nodding, and when I say people, I mean other trustees, other superintendents. It was quite impressive and made us pretty proud that, we really felt like we were standing at the top of the hill on that. So, well done to everybody to make that possible.
Thank you.
I have to say that that's one thing that we've talked about quite often is, it's nice to be in a position at a school that you can say, of course, we want that to be 100%. But each number or each percentage of students that is not in that 94.5%, the nice thing is knowing that every one of those students had a plan for a fifth year. So whether or not it's a fifth year student on an IEP who needs that extra year, or an ELL student who needs that extra year, there were no students that did not have educational plans put in place for them so that they will eventually cross the stage. But then that also means that we can focus more so within our community and within the high school at that college readiness benchmark.
And thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's a really important thing now that Gavin's there, but before, when it was you and Mr. Zona and Sam Santillo, you guys working to make sure that people get into that, at least to the fifth. And we do appreciate that. And although that doesn't show it, I'm glad you brought that up.
And that's actually data from, isn't it? It says that, but it's actually the year before, correct data. So it says 2019, 2020. It's actually data from 2007 or 18, 19. So I think I missed one there. No, that one is correct.
You're right, it's when you're behind.
It is.
Yes, that's all right.
The next indicator is college and career readiness, and we earned 22.5 out of 25 points. And the way that's represented is post-secondary preparation participation. So if they're participating in an AP class, if they're in a dual enrollment, dual credit, or a CT finisher class, 84% of our kids are participating in a class of that nature. Completing post-secondary, meaning that they pass that class, they pass it for AP, meaning they score a 3, or complete the CTE and earn the certificate would be 48%. And then earning advanced or college and career ready diplomas at 40%. So we've got some room to grow there.
This is one that I mentioned when Pioneer was presenting as well, that it's a bit of a challenge because with AP, it's actually easier to get points on this area. A student only has to take one advanced placement course during high school to be a participator and pass that course test with a 3 or better to be a completer. When it comes to dual college credit, so our Jumpstart programming, the student has to participate in 6 credits or 2 classes, but they have to complete 4 and pass those classes. So there's this percentage, I do believe, would actually be higher if it included, for instance, all of our students that were in EDU 110, because they technically do not count as a completer or a participator, either one, unless they were in an AP course. So, but still 84% in terms of having 84% of the seniors participating in some kind of early college credit programming is a pretty high number.
So then when you put all the points together, this is what our index rating is at, 75 in 2017. At the end of 2018, we're at 79. We jumped to an 84, which 4 points for each year is, I think, pretty strong progress. This is the good news, like when you look at this, but then we get to go to this news that makes me want to cry. So I believe that Carson High School is a 5-star school. They put us at that and set up these expectations for where, and we looked and we set up our school improvement plan based off of those expectations. So we went at 0.6. Our average ACT score on the 4 tests was almost a point higher than the state. Our grad rate's 95%. Something I'm really proud of is our ACT composite average for our Hispanic students went up almost a point. So I mean, and they make up 42% of our population, and we've made some good gains there. We still have areas to improve there, particularly with our Hispanic students and their ACT composite score, because they're not where I think they should be. But we did a ton of great things looking at what are kind of the expectations were set up for us. And this is kind of the rub, is that we're ranked a 3-star school because of some flags. We had targeted support improvement for our school because of some underperforming subgroups and low-performing subgroups. And the frustrating part is because they told us, because we were on the list for 2 years straight, our sub-pops didn't make it, but they did not tell us that was 2 years ago. This was an area we were needing to improve. So it's frustrating.
We weren't forewarned, so that's, yeah. Having that knowledge ahead of time would have been nice to know that we could have kept our eyes on a few different other areas, but.
So if you don't, and the way that it's broken up, they take all the sub-pops, and if you don't make the expectation for that year, if you do it 2 years in a row, then you're flagged. And so it happened to us for 2 years, and we are flagged. And these are our areas that we need to improve on. And so it's English language proficiency, that's English ACT. For our LEP students and our IEP students. For math on the ACT, we're talking about our free and reduced lunch population, our Hispanic population, our IEP population, and our white population did not make required growth for 2 straight years. Our 5-year graduation rate for our LEP students did not meet the expectations. Advanced diploma for our LEP students, and then chronic absenteeism, our IEP students, and American Indian students. And then our science proficiency, which is based off the high school proficiency, are LEP and IEP students. So we have these are great areas that we need to be targeting and figure how we can best support these sub-pops. And so these are kind of the numbers that we broke down in our SST team. So the goal is for our Hispanic students in math, this is the percentage of students that are proficient. So it's a 22 for math. We want to move it from 20% to 26.7. Our LEP students, we need to move it from 1.8 to 11.6. And our white students need to be moved to, from 40 to 46. Math IEP from 3.5 to 13.15. Math free and reduced lunch from 16% to about 24.5. And our English language LEP from 3.6 to 13.24. So these are all the numbers of areas that we have flagged that to be removed from that. That's where we need to be next year. So that's first seven.
It seems really daunting, but the thing to note about this is in many cases, this represents 1 or 2 students moving across in order to see those percentages go up. So in many cases, those end counts are quite low. So, or even in the higher end counts, you're maybe talking, 5, 6 kids in many cases. So it's that's somewhat challenging. And then they're different kids from the kids that you had last year. So again, apples to oranges sometimes, but it's good to know and identify. So once you have identified targets, then you know what supports, and to put a little bit of extra energy into having that parent phone call to, make sure that parent is helping us include that student in ACT prep after school or whatever it is that the school is doing to support the kids.
So it doesn't change kind of the focus of where we're looking ACT as far as, and I'll talk a little bit about curriculum and alignment, because everybody's going to benefit from that, but we are doing some.
So Gavin, while you're on that page, one of the things that I think you might want to also look at is, in addition to now them using the ELPA for that 10 out of 10 for your ELL learners, the state is looking at proficiency for ELL learners. And so even if you have 10 out of 10, I went in and looked at your math proficiency, it was like 1.6.
Right.
So you could end up with a corrective action if you haven't already. So I spent most of my day doing that because the state is kind of rolling things out as they go. And so I think that it's one of the things that I think as a school board we need to realize is that TSI designation lasts 3 years. So no matter what you do, scoring 84 points is tremendous. That is a 5-star point. So, Carson High is doing great things. And so just because there's a 3-year hold and it's not been clearly communicated or communicated in a timely manner like so many other things, our school's being punished. And so, I just hope that everyone at your school realizes we recognize your hard work and value the work that both of you have done as leaders of that school. So.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. So here's the other flags when you're looking at Nevada State science proficiency and where we need to be to remove those flags. Let's see. And then the last one is LEP 5-year grad rate from 76 to 88.
The 5th-year grad rate is an interesting indicator too, just to kind of give you an FYI in that. I had to dig into that, and I thought it was really confusing to me at one point in time that I'm like, how can you have a 5th-year grad rate or 5-year grad rate that's lower than your 4-year grad rate? How is that possible, right? Like, how do you graduate more kids and then in year 5 they're less? Interesting interestingly enough, for a school like Carson High School that has 3 CLS programs, what that means is you can actually have students who come into your school for the first time as a 5th year senior or 6th year senior or a 7th year senior in those special needs programs, and they then go into that cohort. And that's how your actual graduation rate can lower, or a 5th year ESL student who's never stepped foot in your class or in your school before. So I did look into that because I thought, I don't understand mathematically how that works, but that's why they get added after the fact.
Just a comment. I wonder how many of the chronic absenteeism of students with IEPs are medically related, and if those are
Not counted.
not counted, that may be a difficult thing. And I hope the state realizes for most of the rural areas and rural districts to visit specialists, it involves sometimes a day of travel. There are not specialists and doctors to see some of the needs that kids have. So sometimes it's a day or two of travel.
I think we have schools across our state that are really experiencing these same challenges, and I would hope that we'll see some changes at the state level, because I think when it comes to, especially at the secondary level, it's just much more complex than the middle school and elementary and middle schools. In terms of the NSPF, elementaries and middle schools are complex enough, but there's so many different or indicators that by the time you're chasing all of your sub pops per each of the indicators, I mean, it's almost impossible to keep your eye on 72 or however many, I have not counted them to be honest with you, but however many there are, as we just stated before, even at the school, you're shifting focus a little bit on ACT and taking it off of pass rates at freshmen, just that little shift, and then all of a sudden you see that fall. So I just don't know how a school is supposed to literally keep planning for all of those different sub-pops within all of those different indicators and be able to really make progress. So I think the high school in general is on the right.
Even when you make progress, you have to continue to make progress,
Correct.
even when you get to high levels of success.
Correct. So just to try to, I think that the best thing is just making sure that we're keeping an eye on our subpopulation, making sure that we know that our students who have LEP needs and have individualized education plans, they need to be specifically looked at to make sure that we put an extra layer of support for them. And then in particular, the rest of them, are just a matter of, okay, can we inclusively, provide support for all? So, I know, Principal Ward and I have talked about that several times, and just the need to really celebrate with that staff, the progress that they've made, and not let the flags get them down. Just say, okay, we just know that those are areas that we need to maybe focus on a little bit more.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because, I mean, when you look at the number of flags, like you said, it's a bit daunting, but it's not something that we can't make headway on. And I think that's important to do, but I think the state system, while it's important and it's a way to measure things, kind of what Trustee Walker was alluding to or said, it's a system that's not meant for sustained success. They're really trying to keep you at the 3-star level. And maybe that's not the right thing to say in a public meeting, but it's frustrating. I think it's important that we represent our subgroups. I think we have the staff that wants to and has the ability to do so. But I think the message from me, when you go back to Carson High School, is to pat everybody on the back and say, we scored 84 points. Our total index score is E4, and while we have work to do, we're doing very, very well, despite what anybody says. And I mean, kudos to everybody. And we want to keep working on where we can improve and represent all of our folks, but really a job well done. And we really appreciate what's happening over there.
Thank you, Mr. Casiopo.
Before we move on, could I ask a question too?
Yep.
A few years ago, I know the Washoe tribe had a truancy officer. I don't know if they still do or not, but if they do, have you guys worked with that officer to try to reduce the chronic absenteeism for the American Indian? I'm assuming most of them are probably from the Washoe tribe.
So I've been communicating with, we have 2 liaisons on campus, and I have Aaron Thacker who works with the tribe, and I also have a dean who's also looking at chronic absenteeism and trying to work with those groups to improve, because obviously 25% does not make me smile, and that's we need to do better.
You may ask Aaron if they still have a truancy officer there or not. And I know at one time, the officer was very active in going out to the people's houses in the morning and making sure they're up and going. So you may want to check on that. And it's possible they may not have one now. I'm not sure.
They've had turnover over the past couple of years, but they typically do have one on staff, and they're very good about reaching out to us and to our schools to introduce themselves and provide support. So we're very grateful for that resource.
Any questions?
Nope.
Good job.
Good job. I think it's going to be confusing when people go to the website and they see an 84 and there's only 3 stars. It'll be interesting to see people go, wait a minute. So, and I think it's already been, everybody said the same thing, all 7 of us agree, and you can take that back to the staff that we see an 84 and we see 5 stars, so we're not worried about it.
That's what we're celebrating, and we're
And we-
hoping to improve, and we've got some areas we're working on, and I'm confident that we will.
Gavin, one of the things the state superintendent of education told us at this conference this weekend, I think collectively, high school students' ACT scores in Nevada rose like 1/10 of a point. And even though that doesn't sound very good, we're the only state in the nation that has positive growth with our ACT scores. So just keep plugging away. You guys are doing great things.
And I like to think at the composite average. So when you look at going back to, I don't know, the days of AYP, and I felt like the resource-wise, if you're asking a principal, how do you solve AYP? And so you're putting resources for, 5 kids or 10 kids, which is great for those kids. But I always felt like the problem with AYP is that you didn't look at the whole. It didn't matter if the kid passed a proficiency, then we're not putting resources necessary towards them. And so what I like about a composite ACT score is that we want every single kid in our high school to improve their score, because a kid that scores goes from a 30 to a 32, that's shown in the composite average. So I really even though it's not measured the composite average, that's something I think we want to look at and say, hey, we want to improve this from top to bottom, and not just focus, I would say, on one specific group. Like it's about the whole school and what we're doing to try to improve what we're doing. So that's for me, looking at the composite averages is a pretty big measurement, and one that I think you want to look at.
Well, I also agree that you guys are doing a terrific job, and I've been to several events at the high school, and I see these young children who are just wonderful, and we had examples here tonight. So overall, I think it's a great job, and I think you guys are really educating the high schoolers to be very successful later on in life. Thank you.
Yeah,
Gavin, I said this before to some of the other schools, but it's most pertinent to you and as well as Pioneer High School. When we look at these scores and we look at our students and we look at what they're doing after, and the students that are choosing to utilize these ACT scores and go to college, pretty much every student I have tracked and followed is doing exceptionally well in college. They are, even when their ACT scores weren't that high, they found a way to step it up and do amazingly well at high school. And we have students all over the United States attending college, and they're very well prepared for it. So again, while we have work to do, that's a huge success in my opinion. When we're graduating students and they're going on to do very good things and do very well. And so again, let the staff know at the high school how much we appreciate their hard work, because our teachers and staff get beat up pretty good throughout the course of a year. And they deserve kudos. They're doing an exceptional job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gavin. Appreciate your time being here.
Good?
Yeah, you're good.
Like I said,
Go
if
home.
you want to come and talk to me about
Right?
anything, please come
Everybody
and
knows
see
how to
me.
find you.
It's tough to come up here after Ava Covington.
I
comes
know.
up here and speaks, and you're like, holy smokes.
Yeah, well, tell me after,
She was very good.
all of them were impressive. That fifth grader talked better than I do. I wanted to put him up here to read this stuff. I was like, wow. So, not to make light of it, though, there is an inch of snow outside already. So just to keep in mind that as we proceed, that it's still coming, it's coming down pretty good. So, yeah. So, I know, I just want to, perhaps, we all do, but there are other people here that are presenting that I want to keep it going so that we could get out of here quickly. If everybody could just keep that in the back of their head, I appreciate it. Moving on to number 10, discussion and possible action on proposed capital projects as supported by the Facilities Master Plan Committee, including construction of classrooms at Eagle Valley Middle School intended to alleviate student overcrowding at Carson Middle School, and an estimate amount not to exceed $8.2 million that will be financed by the sale of the 2019 B school bonds for possible action. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I know none of you are strangers to this topic and have probably heard most of this information multiple times. So in brevity, this is an action item, and it represents the general concept of taking our middle school student enrollment population and modifying the attendance zones to take and create then the enrollment that would build two equally positioned middle schools. So the goal then is to reduce the overcrowding that currently exists at Carson Middle School, and adding on to Eagle Valley Middle School with enough square footage to again make two uniformly sized middle schools. So we have a brief presentation that we want to go through for the benefit of those who might be watching, so that they can understand some of the historical considerations plus the current considerations as we're starting to see growth into Carson City School District. So I'll turn the time over to Mr. Fueling.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. So we went into the Wayback Machine, and it's not too far way back because satellite images have only been around for so long. But to just give you a feel for what Eagle Valley, that parcel of land once was, it's a 40-acre parcel of land, and it's kind of hard to make out, and the pointer doesn't really help, but you can see where, so this is going back into the early 2000s, and just the small area that the school itself takes up of that entire parcel of land. And then you have the track, which is visible there, but so this is prior to the addition that happened in 2012. And actually, this is prior to Carson Middle School having their sea of portables taken away and having construction on. But you can see as you look out towards the roadway, actually it's kind of hard to see, but the roundabout that you're maybe familiar with right now was already there at this point. So that traffic corridor has been the same for quite some time in this area. And here's a close-up of Eagle Valley prior to the expansion. You can see in the back of the building the portables that were back there, totaling eight classrooms, I believe. The single parking lot coming up to the side of the building where the entrance to it once was, just above the green dot. And then here's the now with construction. So you have the new entranceway to the new entrance, main office of the building itself. You have the solar array that is now out by the track, but you still notice there is a significant portion of the land around Eagle Valley that is not developed at this point. Did you? Yeah, I think you've seen that. Yeah, sorry. One of the things that Mr. Stokes reviewed, if you were at bond oversight or the presentation that happened at Eagle Valley Middle School itself, was just a quick review of the historical enrollment numbers. And this is for all middle school. So you can see going back to 2003, you have well over 2,000 kids attending middle school in the district. And then you have the recession and it drops, but now it's on the rise again. But then I think most notably and most importantly, kind of in the context of what we're talking about at Eagle Valley Middle School, when you go back to the early 2000s, you have many years, points in time where you have more than 900 students in that building. So a population of students over 900 is nothing new to that area. When the population drops is when there was rezoning, and many of those kids were then moved over to Carson Middle when that construction was completed.
So we had developed through a company that we came in contact with a way to reassign the attendance zones. We have that for both the elementary schools and also for the middle schools. And if you look at the white box at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, it's a little hard to read, but essentially what that shows is current enrollment and then a projected enrollment through the year 2025. And if we were to use the current enrollment or attendance zones, you'd actually see, maybe if we go back one to the current, if you were to use this attendance zone, you'll see that based on the subdivisions or the developments that have been approved by the city, that Carson Middle School's numbers jump up to 1,436, while Eagle Valley's numbers actually go down to 540. And so there is a need for us to take a look at how our attendance zones are constructed. And of course, in order to modify the attendance zones, we'd also have to take into account a modification of the buildings themselves. So this shows a possible redistribution of students and taking into account, again, those same subdivisions or developments. You'll see that in the year 2025, both middle schools actually have a very similar enrollment. And so that's our goal. We believe that by taking this step to make a change in the attendance maps for our middle schools and also adding square footage onto Eagle Valley Middle School, we can end up in the end with a solution that will manage the student growth in the next little while in our school district. So as a recap rather, it shows again the capacity of our buildings currently. It shows our enrollments currently at our middle schools. It shows that projected 24 to 25 school year enrollment numbers. And then it shows the proposed numbers should we make the change that we are proposing. So really that's the presentation. You folks have already taken some steps in terms of approving a school bond sale, which is scheduled right now for December 4th. We really can't do anything with that money until we have your approval to take this step. And so we're hoping some discussion and ultimately potential action can happen with regard to this plan. I should add that we have discussed, not only with the school board, we've talked about this concept with our citizens committee that were part of the study of 1600 Snyder Avenue. We've presented this to the Community PLC. We've presented at the Bond Oversight Committee, and then we've also held a town hall type meeting, which was not well attended, which, based on the outcome of this question tonight, we will do more work with the folks over around the Eagle Valley Middle School neighborhood. Any questions for us?
You know, Mr. Stokes, I think we've gone through this several times, so at this point, I'd like to actually move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve as presented the proposed capital projects as supported by the Facilities Master Plan Committee, including construction of classrooms at Eagle Valley Middle School intended to alleviate student overcrowding at Carson Middle School in an estimated amount not to exceed $8.2 million that will be financed by the sale of the 2019 B school bonds.
I'll second.
Motion by Mike, second by Don. Any other discussion on the board? Laurel?
Just a question I had regarding the, not to exceed 8.2 million, but we still have to submit a bid before we know, this is just a ballpark. And then just looking at, that we're looking at adding 8 to 10, or 9 to 10 classrooms. That's almost $1 million a classroom. And it just boggles my mind at how much school construction has gone up. So hopefully that is what's the square footage that we're looking to add? Is it more than just 9 to 10 classrooms? Is there additional things considered to be added as well?
Correct, yeah. So Andrew Feeling, for the record, beyond the classrooms themselves, there's lots of supporting areas, storage areas, maintenance areas, bathrooms, things like that. Not necessarily thinking about extra gym space. I mean, maybe there'd be some consideration for nutrition. But until we get to the architectural design piece to really with the support of Dr. Conley and trying to figure out how would this work, what does he need to expand his programming. I think the goal is to get it so that Eagle Valley Middle School, the programming that they could offer would be right on par with what Carson Middle can offer. And as they grow in size, that becomes much easier to pull off.
We would still need to submit everything out for bid and everything.
Correct.
This is just to get that process started so that we can look at the bond money. As any construction project we usually have, you have more time to get input, and especially. Joe?
Just a quick discussion item, question. You know, we're looking at these numbers, and when you look at where we are now versus where we might be in 2025, while there's an increase, there's not as much of an increase as we could have. Will we, by doing these 5 classrooms, will that provide us a little additional capacity in case we get a surge down the road? Or is that going to be, hey, in 2015, if we are where we are, and 2025 and 2028, hypothetically, we get some kind of surge, Tesla builds a plant on 5th Street? You know, I'm being a little facetious, but, you know, do we have room to grow, or are we going to have to go back for more money, and will we be able to?
So with this offering, so what we're looking at doing now, since Snyder has been postponed a little bit with the Phase 2 environmental study, the board 2 meetings ago approved for a bond sale not to exceed $20 million. And that was inclusive, thinking that the purchase of Snyder possibly would happen. Since that's delayed, the bond sale is actually going to be sold for $11 million. And we can easily go out again in March or April when Snyder's finished. And if that does happen, we can bond for the balance at that point. So in total, this fiscal year, we might bond for about $20 million. We still would have another $20 million available. Marty Johnson, our bond advisor, says in fiscal year 2025, we'd have another $20 million available. I believe in 2029, he thinks we'd have another 25 to 30 that would be available. So there is some money down the road. And I think in terms of, this construction doesn't necessarily give us a lot of extra capacity, but in terms of, if we could bring Carson Middle School down to the 950, 1,000 range, if they would end up ballooning up to where they are, they certainly, we know they can go to where they are right now. It's not pleasant, but they can do it if they have to. I would think Eagle Valley, kind of along the same terms, could do that. Ultimately, the community is likely going to need a third middle school. I don't think we're, and with operational funding concerns, but I don't know that we really want to be there
And I
yet.
guess that would be just the question, which I think it's still good, but something to also consider is Carson Middle School was built so large. What if we built two so large, and then are we going to have one really small middle school? I mean, just looking down
If the bid comes in more than $8.2 million, where do we stand?
There is, with an $11 million bond, clearly there's some room if it would come in higher than that. And if that is the case, we would be coming back to you with another revised capital improvement plan, kind of showing you what shuffling we had to do. But clearly, we'll have that limited resource that we'll have to work within.
I'm totally in support of this moving forward.
Any other discussion from the board? Any discussion or comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Madam President, I move that we move item 14 to next on the agenda so that our presenters in the audience might be able to get home before the weather gets too bad.
Motion by Mike, second by Laurel. Any other discussion on this? Any comment from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Is the public here for another agenda item? I guess would be.
Okay, Mr. Stokes.
Thank you,
We'll go
Madam.
on to informal update on the progress made towards completion of the inspections and feasibility study of the property located at 1600 Snyder Avenue, Carson City, Nevada, for discussion only.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. One of the items that we started early on in the process of doing a feasibility study with regard to 1600 Snyder Avenue was to do an appraisal. And late last week, we received a copy of the final appraisal and have with us this evening Mr. Dan Leck, who was the appraiser, who's here to support this particular agenda item in any way or to answer any questions that you might have. The agenda should have been sent to each of you electronically. Hopefully you've had a chance to look through that and to consider the different aspects that were taken into account as Mr. Leck did his job. Also with us is Mr. John Uhart, who has been assisting us on the real estate side of things, and he too has consented to be here to answer any questions. I would also like to let you folks know that I talked with NNDA, Mr. Andrew Haskins, who assisted us in the first environmental study, the phase 1, and he has also generated the paperwork and is seeking the permissions from the Environmental Protection Agency to do the environmental study phase 2. So the feasibility study is ongoing at this point. And we have had some interaction with the seller. They're still very interested in pursuing the process that has begun. And we're here really to offer any additional information specific to questions you might have surrounding the appraisal. It should be noted that the dollar amount that was part of our initial letter of intent was $5.67 million. That was our initial discussion. With Mr. Leck's work and the appraisal that has come in, that number has been given now as $4.1 million. It should be stated that one of the things that was not really taken into account in the appraisal is the inclusion of the personal property that's inside the building, so that represents maybe an opportunity for additional discussions to carry forward. But in light of that general introduction, do you have any questions with regard to the appraisal? And if so, I'd invite Mr. Leck to join me.
I don't have a question, but I read all 109 pages of it. It was very, very complete. But as far as the property that was left behind, I can't see a lot of value there other than maybe the sound system. The office furniture and stuff like that left behind can't be worth a whole lot of money. So that'd be my only comment, is that I don't see that adding a whole lot of value to the property.
We have reached out to the seller, and that outreach was to see if there was a way that we could get some sort of a list of the materials that are there. We could probably go out there with some of our own folks and try to come up with a list and put some sort of price to that. But at this point, that's still a little nebulous.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Leck for the appraisal. We've been talking about it now for several meetings, and it's nice to see it. I've, reviewed, I don't want to say a lot of appraisals, but a fair amount, both personally and professionally, and I thought it was very well done, very professional, so thanks for your hard work. It's, as you said in there, it's hard to find, comparables. It's a bit unique given what's there, what's above ground, what's subsurface. You indicated, I thought you did a real good job of mentioning, there's some areas underground based on its history, some's been cleaned up, some, maybe not so much, but I think it's a good tool that we have now to go forward. And in my opinion, there's really not much I can offer until we really understand, what the phase two, if you will, uncovers. So we kind of know, what's there, because there's some liability associated with certain items if they are there and we have to deal with them. So, I think if I understood what you're saying, Richard, we're kind of on hold still, waiting to see, waiting to get to the results of a phase two investigation. And I'd like to see where we're at with there before we go too much farther on some of this other stuff.
Mr. Leck, was there anything you'd like to add to the discussion?
If you've got any questions at all, I would very much encourage you to ask them now. And if something comes up in the next week or 2 weeks, I'm very open for you to call me up and entertain any questions that you do have. It's one of those properties that there's no right answer to. And on top of the ownership restrictions of a school or a church adds more headaches to it. But if I take off my appraiser hat and put on my citizen hat, there's a lot of advantages that it has. Mr. Stokes was talking earlier about the growth in the district. We haven't seen a lot of it, but a lot of the numbers now that are approaching us because of the new development. And we don't know how many of them are going to be families with children. But I haven't seen these numbers now in basically about 15 to 20 years. And if they even fill up 70 or 80%, it will have an impact on the schools. And there's going to be obstacles with the schools, at least based on my research, that I would have come up with a higher number, but the deficiency with the property is it consists of 5 separate buildings. And I addressed in the report that back in the late 60s, early 70s, when Carson High School was built, it was built as 2 separate 2-story buildings. And it wasn't until, the late 80s, 90s, that they were combined with a pretty large bond issue. And virtually every school here in Nevada now that's built is a self-contained building. And even if there were demand for a church, most churches are also self-contained buildings. And that will probably be your greatest obstacle in retrofitting the property for a school. But there's a lot of benefits that come with it. With the ownership of the property to the north and to the east, which is owned by Carson City, and with the shared performing arts and recreational facilities that you have, that will be a real benefit to you. But with the auditorium that you have and the multipurpose, that's going to benefit the city also with those facilities. And now I can put on both my appraiser hat and citizen hat. It's a positive for the community. And I did talk about, and it's been discussed here tonight, the new cost of school construction. I call it ridiculously stupid. But what choice do you have?
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lick?
No, I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment. I appreciate you pointing out the deficiencies that you found in the property. You know, the carpet, the exterior paint, the paved parking lot that's going to need a lot of attention, like you said, soon, or else it's going to have to be replaced. All the water stains on the ceiling and, et cetera. So, and also, just so everybody knows, I mean, the property, everybody read the report, but the property is 10 acres, but usable space is 8.38 acres. Is that correct? I mean, because of the easements and right-of-ways and stuff like that?
Correct. The Snyder Street bisects the southerly portion of it. And then there's a triangular piece basically in the southwest portion. And one of the documents that I was able to find, that when the property was approved for a church, a special use permit had to be granted by the city, and with that special use permit, they just said, we really don't want anything on that triangular parcel. And it is an albatross. I'm not sure what you can do with it, but I looked at the property as being 8.38 acres. I might say that during the inspection and Mansard's inspection also, where they said the buildings structurally were in good to excellent condition. And the concern of the landfill area in the southeast region, when I walk to the buildings, one of the first things I look at a building is look on the floor. The floors are concrete. There are no cracks. So if the landfill did exist, either somebody compacted it phenomenally or in talking to the excavator, that there's some areas that he went down 15 feet to get all the waste material out of there. And the structure shows that. And now with the phase 2 being done, which I think is the correct step to take, because you're going to answer every question to the public at that point. And if that shows a good, clean degree of good soil, then I think that the building should last for a good amount of time.
Just another comment, we are concerned about the lead, and that's why we're glad we're having the phase 2. But also, you mentioned in there about the water runoff, and I wasn't quite sure what you meant by that with the deficiency.
Well, right now, all the water runoff comes basically to the south. And there is a detention basin in the southeast corner of the property. I'm not sure how good that works. And in the Mansard report, they also mentioned the amount of water that accumulates around the building. These are not going to be a huge problem to repair, because if there was more damage, we would see it in the buildings. It is something that will have to be taken care of. In the Mansard report, they showed the classroom buildings, the access with them, and it might be that that because they're separated from the two main buildings, maybe you relocate them closer to one of the other two buildings. And there's a lot of, I don't know, maybe you end up taking those buildings down because of their distance from the two main structures. Because eventually, I gotta believe you're gonna connect at least the two main structures one way or another. And maybe you relocate the two classroom buildings in between as a buffer.
Yeah, I think just, we're, like I said before, I'm just waiting to get some more information, but I agree with what you're saying. I mean, any kind of drainage or whatnot, I mean, I've walked the site too. And doing that kind of work for a living, that's all doable. That's, anytime you buy a piece of property with buildings on it, there's, stuff, for lack of a better word, you're gonna have to do. I think the site has a lot of potential. I certainly agree with that. We're just trying to make sure we understand what we're getting so we can make an offer that's, both fair to us and the current owner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Leck.
you.
We appreciate all your hard work and professionalism.
Well, give me a call if you have any questions.
We will. Thank you. And Mr. Uhart's here. Does anybody have any questions for him? Okay. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you always being here, John, especially tonight with the weather. Any other discussion by the board before moving on to the next agenda item? Okay. Seeing none. We'll move back to number 11, recognition of the 2019 Nevada Association of School Boards Award recipients. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Thank you, Mr. Walker, for starting us out with this conversation. It was really nice to be
I purposely didn't steal your thunder, though.
No. It's nice to be affiliated with a group that's well thought of throughout the state. I think our professionalism and the way we're able to get a lot of good things done is apparent. This is the second time that the school board has been recognized as the best school board in the state. One 2013, and of course this year. And I think, if I'm remembering right, back in 2008, we also were recognized as such. And so I think it's pretty impressive to be recognized out of the 17 school districts to have earned this honor. So I'm proud to be affiliated with such a fine organization. And then, of course, individually, President Wilkie was named individual school board member. Mr. Walker, new director of the year.
Actually, that was a mistype in the program. It's new school board member of the year.
Oh.
And his
New
award has
school
it
board
correctly.
member. Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay. You wouldn't have known from the program.
Okay.
Forgot to list him as earning his CPO certificate.
I was actually left off the program.
So was I.
So it's a good thing we're recognizing you and celebrating tonight. And then, of course, our very own Mr. Fueling was recognized along with compatriot Paul Johnson of White Pine County School District as District Level Administrator impacting student achievement. So congratulations to those two gentlemen as well. So again, I will be working with Mr. Davis. I took some photographs of the group at the event. We'll do a press release and let the public know to a greater extent of these really nice awards. So
And-
congratulations.
And the other thing is, even one of our nominees that's not on this board, Mrs. White, won Superintendent of the Year, too. So not only did we win in our own district, we spread that winning throughout and even added Paul Johnson in from White Pine. So I thought that was kind of cool. So, but it's still not 100%, still waiting for 100%. But thank you. Thank you all. And like I said at the awards, I can't imagine working with 6 other more respectable, professional people. We all have our own backgrounds and our own way of seeing things, but when it comes down to it, we all see what we want to do, what's best for the kids of Carson City. And it shows, I think, at every meeting. And I appreciated being able to be the leader of that this year. And I'm proud to be part of that. And I don't understand why the top doesn't come off like the Stanley Cup, so we couldn't pass it around and eat cereal out of it or something. And just like the last time we won, we're going to get everybody a plaque that has this information on it. So you all have a piece of this because it's a definite team winning thing. Plus, we have to get a trophy case because we're winning too many awards. Just saying. Thank you, Mr. Stokes.
Stacy, I just want to say real quick, you know, I was sitting there this kind of in between, at night between the 2 days that we were there. And just, you know, when I researched a couple of people on the various school boards throughout our state, there's some amazing people throughout our state. I mean, we talk about our district, but to be honored and recognized as a district and our individual people who got recognized, everybody's in good company. I mean, there's some really impressive people throughout the state that are serving in these capacities. And I mean, I don't want to take anything away from them because I was pretty impressed with what I was reading, but the fact that we, on some occasions, rose to the top, it's quite an honor. So, I mean, I feel great about that. Thanks to really all of you, like you said. It's a phenomenal board here as well, and I really appreciate everybody being a part of it.
Yeah, and being the nominating committee chairperson because I'm immediate past president, and Laurel and Michael back me up because they've been on the actual committee. That is one of the hardest things you ever have to do because there are so many good applications. And think of the ones we're not getting because there are counties not putting in, which is sad. But
The stack is still like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
It really is, but it's just an amazing thing to see what's going on in Nevada, and you're right. It's like I said last night, if we could give them to everybody, that would be the thing to do, but it's one of the toughest assignments I've ever had for NASB, but well worth it. Moving on to number 12, discussion on newly proposed CCSD policy 625, teacher school supply state reimbursement. First reading for discussion only, Mr. Fueling.
Good evening again, trustees. Andrew Fueling for the record. I did my best with this item, the teacher supply, school supply state reimbursement policy, so that the executive summary hopefully laid things out as clearly as it could, and hopefully the policy itself makes sense. On November 1st, we were notified by NDE. We knew that based on the bill that this was coming, but finally got notification about what the policies they specifically wanted to see in the policy and when they wanted it back, and they didn't give us much of a turnaround time as they wanted by December 31st in their hands to see what you have approved. So Senate Bill 324 was passed in this session, which extended the school supply reimbursement program. We have been doing this since 2015. It's been a fairly successful program. It's not utilized to its fullest extent, but most districts don't see it utilized at 100%. Fortunately for this year, the amounts historically have been in the just maybe I think 110 to 120 range per teacher, but this year went up to $191 per teacher, so it's a little more significant. And I think a larger number might encourage some more use of those funds, so that was a good thing. One of the pieces.
Question about that?
Yeah, sure.
So does that include like your counselors and, because I remember it used to not.
Right.
And so that's always a question that comes up.
Yeah, I get these questions from the principals regularly when we start talking about this. So it goes back to the specific definition of a teacher. And in NRS 387-1251, it says it's a licensed employee of a school district who devotes the majority of his or her time working to the rendering of direct educational service to students, except that the term does not include a substitute teacher. So the way that until this point that districts have generally interpreted that is it's really folks providing direct instruction, not necessarily support. And we didn't really think more of counselors being on the support services side. I would hope at some point this would kind of expand to all those folks who are, either direct instruction or supporting kids, because I'm sure that we have counselors that are also spending a lot of their own funds. But at this time, based on how we interpret that they wouldn't qualify. So anyway, the two pieces that NDE clarified in their guidances, and we've added this into the policy, is that whatever teachers purchase is purchased at their sole discretion. The one caveat to that, or maybe just further detail, is that it can't violate board policy. So previously, we would have the teachers, they would have to notify the principal, or when they were getting reimbursement, it would have to be something that the principal thought was of value to their classroom. That is effectively removed. So it's up to the teachers based on the guidance. And then also that whatever they purchase with those funds effectively is theirs as long as they teach at a public school in the state of Nevada. So if they would make the mistake of moving out to White Pine County, where Paul Johnson is, to teach, they could take those items with them and it's still okay. So if there's any questions.
That was the second thing I was wondering is, whose job is it to keep track of that? So are teachers going to have to submit receipts or say, this is how I spent my $191, and then the principal has to say, oh, you got a job in California, I need your book about blank back.
Right. So the principals would have the receipts, as the way we plan to run this is as a reimbursement program. As far as the final accountability, and maybe that's something we should add back or add into the policy, is clarifying that it is a responsibility of the teacher to notify, because I don't think it's reasonable for a principal to be keeping track of all of those things. And I've seen a couple of the other policies written by other districts, and there's in some cases great responsibility put upon the teacher, because they will actually be fronted funds, and anything they don't spend they have to return back to the state or the district. And I think that makes things awfully messy for our teachers. I wouldn't want to put that on them. But that's something we certainly could add in as clarifying language, that it's the responsibility of the teacher to return anything to the Carson City School District.
I think a lot of things that teachers purchase are consumable, and they're not going to be around for very long. And the other question I had was, is there enough money being given to the district? So if every teacher would submit for $250, is there enough money to cover that? Or how do you do that? Do you prorate it then, or?
Sure. So the state actually gives us a specific dollar amount. So it's $191 and I think 28 cents or something this year, but each year it changes. And it's gone up in the last number of years because whatever funding has been appropriated by the legislature hasn't fully been spent, and they've just been kind of keeping it in that larger pot. So I'm not sure what the future will hold with that, but it seems to be a fairly popular idea and bill with the legislators at this point.
I would just say, I think that it's a great program because most teachers I know spend well more than that over the course of a school year. And then I'm just kind of wondering, maybe instead of clarifying language in there, maybe if there's a regulation that goes with this, that's where you kind of put the fine tuning of how to meet that requirement.
Mm-hmm.
I just would hate to see our principals all having to keep spreadsheets of every book and game a teacher bought with those funds.
And maybe the process that they have to go through to do it would be good in the regulation.
And just how do we get teachers, if they're not submitting for reimbursements, how do we encourage them? Because I've served on PTA boards and we offer reimbursement for teachers. And every year, the teachers never filled everything that we'd budgeted for them. They never submitted it. So how do we tell them how do we make it easier for them to save their receipts or to turn that in so that they can get that?
Or to know that it's available.
Yeah, advertise it to them. Not really advertise it, but at some, what I mean.
Sure. It's certainly something we haven't spoken about it with the principals this year at meeting. The last number of years, we've always had some time to talk about this, and maybe there's some ideas they can discuss with their staff. I really do feel like the dollar amount may have, for some, it just may not have been worth the effort to even to go to that. But now with more money being available, maybe that'll make a difference with what we see. But it's not an uncommon problem across the state. Most districts don't come close to using all the funds that are allocated.
And I think that if you talk to most teachers, things happen like you're grocery shopping and it's like, Donald never has snacks, so I'm going to buy this, this, and this for my classroom. Mm-hmm. And then, oh, look, they have these pencils. You know what I mean? And so a lot of the things, they don't even keep their receipts because it's mixed in with their personal things. And you kind of do those things not expecting to get reimbursed, which is kind of shooting yourself in the foot. But that's just the reality of being busy, I think.
And that's exactly, I think, what it is, in a perfect world, we all do it. You just get things because you need it for what you do. And teachers are no exception. I mean, we talk time and time again about how busy they are. And I can tell you from my wife's standpoint, she doesn't have another 10 minutes in the day to log receipts. She's not worried about it.
Any other discussion, comments for AJ?
No, I believe that maybe they've taken away the tax deduction for this also through the federal income tax. So you may see a little bit more, but that's my understanding is that credit or tax deduction may have gone away.
Okay. Thank you, AJ. Moving on to number 13, discussion and possible action on the superintendent's annual evaluation for the 2019 calendar year for possible action. That would be me. So if you'll take out your superintendent form, you'll see that the wonderful Renee put this all together, and we thank her for her due diligence and making sure everything's correct and the time spent. Thank you very much. And so what I'd like to do is I'm gonna read just the heading and the things that headed over. If anybody has a comment, you feel free to talk. Otherwise, your comments are on the record and anyone in the public can get a copy of this. So we'll just go from there. So we have leadership and district culture. That's the implementing of a shared vision that focuses on improved student achievement, promotes academic rigor, empowers and supports staff to reach high levels of performance to achieve district and school objectives, promote understanding and celebrations of educational success, promotes safety, tolerance, civility, and acceptance, develops, implements, monitors, and promotes continual improvement processes. After everyone is said and done, we have a rating of very satisfactory at an average of 3.14. Anyone wanting to comment? Okay, seeing none, moving on to employer superintendent relations. Works with the board to formulate internal and external district policy, demonstrates good school governance to staff, students, and the community at large, establishes procedures for successful superintendent board interpersonal and working relations, takes NAFTA responsibility for executing district policies, understanding and interprets the role of federal, state, and regional governments, policies, and politics in their relations to the local districts and schools, uses legal and other counsel in governance and procedures to avoid liabilities. After all is said and done, a very satisfactory report with a 3.42 average. Any comments?
I would just like to thank Mr. Stokes for being so open and honest with the board and always willing to meet and discuss items. And the way you present information at the board meetings is very commendable. Thank you.
Any others? And Richard, I'm sorry, did you have any comments for number 1 or number 2? Okay, didn't mean to leave you out there. Seeing no more comments, we'll move on to the community relations and communication. Lead staff to establish effective two-way communication with students, staff, parents, and community. Demonstrates effective communication skills in individual, small, and large group settings. Promotes involvements of all stakeholders to fully participate in effective education. Establishes effective school-community relations, school business partnerships, and public service opportunities. Understands and uses media opportunities to shape and form opinions and relationships. After all is said and done, it's a very satisfactory rating with an average of 3.00. Any comments to this board?
You know, this is one of the areas that I had marked as satisfactory, and I think that I think we do a really great job of outreach to the community in like those PLCs and whatnot. I think that we need to open some more communication lines with our teachers and staff members so that they feel like they have a place to bring their grievances or their concerns. And I think that that's just what's lacking. And I think that we need to, as a district, kind of look at some ways to do that in the year coming forward.
Any other comments? Seeing none, any comments from Mr. Stokes? Okay. Moving on to organizational management. Gathers and analyzes data for decision-making and recommendations to the board and other entities. Develops and promotes large-range plans for school and district technology and information systems. Develops and monitors a successful facilities management plan, including security, maintenance, and replacement programs. Plans for community financial support for facilities via bond issues. Establish procedures for dealing with emergencies such as weather, threats to schools, student bullying, violence, and trauma. Ended up with a superior rating with an average of 3.57, which made it round up to a number 4. Any comments from the board? No? Mr. Stokes? Okay,
I'll say one thing.
okay. Go ahead, Don.
There's no school tomorrow. So at 4:30 this morning or tomorrow morning, you won't have to drive the bus routes that you personally,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh-oh.
I think Mr. Stokes.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, you're looking at someone.
Seeing none, moving on to educational program and curriculum planning development. Stays up to date in curriculum, teaching practices, learning, and testing theories. Successfully plans, implements, and monitors state mandate curriculum and testing changes. Establishes curriculum planning anticipating occupational trends and school to careers opportunities. Assesses and reports student progress using required and appropriate techniques involves faculty and stakeholders in enhancements and renewal of curriculum to align curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Ranked very satisfactory with an average of 3.0. Any comments?
Well, I think I need to say something because one of the things I've been very critical in the past about was the curriculum programs. And I think that you and Mrs. Kima did a great job of updating the curriculum, and I'm pleased with the direction we're taking. And so I know that that was a heavy lift last year, and it felt like we were looking at textbooks quite a bit. It was very welcome because it's something that I think we needed to do quite a bit ago. So thank you, Mr. Stokes.
Anyone else? Mr. Stokes?
Mr. Fueling stopped me in the hall today during the workday and shared with me a pretty significant number that represented how much was spent last year. At some point, maybe we can make that presentation to the board.
Probably under that amended budget discussion. Be
Here
fun.
we go.
Moving on to instructional leadership, professional and leadership development. Collaboratively develops, implements, and monitors changes so that the most effective teaching techniques are in place following current research and best practices. Instructional resources are focused on maximizing student achievement, implements and manages process to assess teaching methods, classroom management, and strategies for school-based learning. Analyzes instructional resources and assigns them to a cost-effective, equitable manner. Establishes instructional strategies that include cultural diversity, learning styles, differences, and individual potentials. Encourages improved staffing patterns, scheduling, organizational structure, and professional training to support improved student outcome. Rating was very superior with a 3.0 average. Any comments from board? Seeing none, Mr. Stokes? That's good. Moving on, human resource management, staff and personal relations. Demonstrates successful use of systems and staff evaluation data for personnel policies, decision-making, promotion of career growth and professional development, seeks to employ highly qualified staff as budget and contractual obligations allow, promotes improved evaluation and compensation programs, understands and applies legal requirements, contractual obligations, district and board policies in employment and union negotiations, provides technical advice to the board and representatives during labor negotiations to keep the board apprised of negotiation status, to understand and effectively administer contracts, and to keep abreast of legislative changes affecting collective bargaining process, budgets, and contracts. Rating very satisfactory with an average of 2.57. Any comment from the board? I think I've talked more in the last 4 days than I've talked in a very long time. Mr. Stokes? Okay. Moving on to values and moral leadership. Understands the models appropriate value systems, ethical and moral leadership, coordinates with public agencies and human services to help students grow and develop as caring, informed citizens. Explores and develops ways to successfully deal with difficult and diversified issues, promotes establishments of moral and ethical practices in every classroom, school, and operation of the district. Rating very superior with an average of 3.57, rounded up to a number 4. Board discussion? Mr. Stokes, discussion? Thank you. Seeing none, moving on to financial management and business matters. Demonstrates successful budget matters or budget management, including forecasting, planning, cash flow management, and controls. Oversees the monetary policies of the district, including revenue projections, budgeting, resource allocations, and control. With the board, plans financial strategies to maximize district success. Directs financial resources to support the goals and requirements of the district. Maintains good communication with state and federal financial administrative offices. Maintains transparent financial records. Rating superior, average of 3.71, rounded up to a 4.0. Any discussion from board? Nobody else wants to talk tonight. Mr. Stokes.
You do such a good job.
I was thinking I should have kept Mr. Roman here to finish out for me. Seeing none, moving on to management and implementation of the strategic plan. Provide quarterly reports on progress of goals, objectives, and strategies. Provide annual reports. Utilizes the strategic plan in decision-making. Demonstrates through his or her actions that he or she has leading the strategic plan's missions and values. Engages the community in the development and implementation of the strategic plan. Rating very satisfactory with a 3.42, rounding to a 3. Any discussion from the board? Richard?
I would just like to say that I think overall the schools did real well this year. However, I think we all know that the middle schools need to have some attention paid to them this year to see if their scores or their star rating can increase. So that'd be my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Okay. Moving on to student achievement. Annually set and communicate to the board SMART goals, focusing on improving student achievement as measured by graduation rates, SBAC, MAP, ACT, and EOC exams. Rating is a very superior with an average of a 2.71, rounding to a 3.0. Any discussion from the board? Joe?
I think across the board, Richard's been doing a great job. This is where I had the lowest mark, and I think in a way a bit unfairly, but I tried to encapsulate it into one area. And really, my thought here is just, as I said in my comments, is, we demand a lot from our staff, and it's certainly not all Mr. Stokes doing. I mean, it's kind of what we're left with from the feds, from the state, and also from our district.
Right.
And we have great communication with Mr. Stokes, and we're doing some really good things here. But when we look at like the presentation tonight at the high school, where there's just, they just missed out on being able to enjoy a 5-star status because of these gaps. We got to find a way to impact education in the classroom, and I've kind of said it over again. In doing that, I think the way you do it is find ways to clear the field and be able to focus more time on teaching. And I don't know how we do that, but I think that's kind of where I think we're missing the mark a little bit, and I think there's room for improvement.
Joe, could I? And just in fairness to Mr. Stokes, I just want to say, like in relation to like what you're saying about the high school, he wouldn't have had that information because that's stuff that the state didn't clearly communicate to the schools or him. And so I think that your point is well taken, but I think that there's also some areas when we get into these test scores, I think that we just have to realize it's one measure. But I think that we also, within our school district, there's a number of ways to dial down into all of the different data pieces we have. And so one of the things that would be really nice when we're having some of these reports is, this is what the SBAC shows, and yeah, we want to work on this score, but our MAP scores grew, X amount, and then our internal assessments, there's a lot of ways to get more information so that we have a better sense of the great things that are happening. Those standardized tests don't always paint a clear picture. And as a school, sometimes it's really hard to dial down and see what the students did or didn't do well, and then for Mr. Stokes' perspective, I think it's even more challenging not being in the buildings working on those exact exams.
No, and I agree. And in Mr. Stokes' defense, again, that's why I said early on, I think he's doing a good job. I just think there's overall room for improvement. And while, we keep having the same discussion, and this is maybe getting off the topic a little bit, but we keep saying, like the SBAC is one measure, and I get that, it totally is, but it's a huge measure that everybody seems to care about. And if we were doing well there, we would not miss the opportunity to celebrate that. And so I think at the same time, we got to recognize it and figure out, what can we do to climb that hill as well? Because we are doing some great things. We just need to figure that out a bit.
If I could, I'd like to clarify my remarks that I made last time. It should have been for this area here, and I was reading ahead, so I apologize, but I would just like to see some improvement of the middle school scores in the star rating.
Laurel?
And just for me, I think for student achievement, we've seen tremendous improvement at the high school for a number of measures. I think we've also seen it at the elementary schools, and not to, the star rating, that's, Carson High earned more points to be a five-star school, but because of where they were classified, they can't. And I think, if I remember correctly, for all of the schools in the district, everyone is increasing their points wherever their stars are, except for having a problem at the middle schools right now where they've dropped significant numbers on the points. I think they may actually be designated where even if they were to suddenly improve by 20 points, they still wouldn't be able to get a 5-star or 4, they'd still be held to a 3-star. So to me, it's the direction that they're moving, and I'm seeing it really strongly in the elementary and high school, and just have some concern at the middle school. But there's other areas that are growing at the middle school too, so.
Any other comments? Mr. Stokes?
I would just like to say, if I could, real quick, that I think you've done a good job, and we appreciate it. And we're looking forward to continuing working with you.
Thank you, and you folks have been very generous. We always have, this is our business. Our goal is to have our kids doing as well as they possibly can. So we've identified some steps that we know that we'll be taking. We also recognize that we're getting better at some of the formulas and understanding what's expected. And I think back to times like No Child Left Behind. It took a little getting used to some of those new measures. We got to that point. I have no doubt we'll get there in the future as well. So I just want to say thanks to great staff. My goals are their goals. and we really work well together as a group, and I appreciate everybody's contributions. And that's the principals, that's our directors, of course, my immediate staff, and really appreciate their support.
Okay. So when you compile it all together, the rating is very superior. If you're going back and looking at our rounded ones, you're going to find, very satisfactory. Boy,
It is almost 10 o'clock.
it's 10 o'clock and a person with dyslexia. I think I'm doing okay. Plus, I didn't bring my glasses, and now that I've turned 54, all of a sudden I can't see the fine print, especially AJ's stuff. So I thought I'd be okay tonight, so it would be a very satisfactory. But if you went through and you were adding up the points that we did rounded up, that would be a 36. And what we went through is we did all the real averages and then rounded that up, and it came out to a 35. So just for clarification, if you were looking at that part of it. Any comments on the overall very satisfactory?
I just want to thank Mr. Stokes. I think we're very, very fortunate to have him as our superintendent. I couldn't ask for anybody with more passion, more understanding, more ethical leadership than Mr. Stokes, and I really appreciate, being able to work with him to really try to do what's best for our students. So thank you to you, Mr. Stokes.
Go ahead, Don.
I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees deem the overall rating of Mr. Richard Stokes, Superintendent of the Carson City School District, to be very satisfactory for the 2019 calendar year.
I'll second that.
I'm going to give the second to Lupe because she hasn't chimed in today. So motion by Dawn, second by Lupe. Any other discussion by the board? Any discussion from the public? I have to say, this is why we're School Board of the Year. We're doing a and shows what a job Mr. Stokes has done, because here we are in an open meeting going over a superintendent evaluation, and we have one person left in the audience, and it's always Brian. So I thought Loretta was going to hang, but she couldn't hang 5 more minutes. So, but she's usually here too. So I think that tells us too that we're on the right track. Yeah.
That's true.
That's good. She can help me do the
That's
12
true.
driveways I have in the morning. Okay, seeing no public comment, no other discussion, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thank you, and thank you again, Mr. Stokes, for all you do for our district. We appreciate it. Moving on to number 15, approval of the consent agenda for possible action.
So moved. Second.
Just one quick minor correction on the minutes.
Yes.
And I said minor, but it's the different way. For my report on Fritch Elementary, Alex Minor was the name, not Alex Meyer, so Miner, just like a minor. Minor correction, I know.
It's too late to even go there. Any other corrections? Did we have a motion?
So I'll amend my motion to
Thank you.
accept consent agenda with the correction noted.
And I'll second the amended motion.
Thank you. Any discussion from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Consent agenda passes. Moving on to number 16, informational items. You can see them below, plus you'll notice that Renee was nice enough to give us a single photo of all the holiday stuff going on. It's a pretty exciting time. Moving on to number 17, request for future agenda topics. Richard?
I was just curious, Mr. Stokes, a while back requested, I guess, extension to his contract, and I wonder when and how we address that.
We've got it on the next agenda to talk about it. What's probably going to happen is Mr. Stokes and I and Mr. Pavlakis and probably another board member will get together, but we'll go over the process, I think, next meeting. I think we discussed. Mr. Stokes, is that right?
I think we could probably do it in a variety of ways. The last time when we did a contract kind of discussion, it was as you described, and then that information was brought back to the board as a whole.
So if anybody has problems with that, let me know. Otherwise, that's the way we'll continue to do it. Any other future agenda items? Seeing none. Lupe, guys did great. I really did appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to the quarterly stuff, so next president should keep that up. Just saying. Anyway, seeing none, everyone have a happy Thanksgiving and drive home safely, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much, everyone.